Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today I've got a trade review for the 4 trades I took last week and how the daylight saving shift has affected my trading this past week. I'm going to show you the 2 winning trades I took first, as they're just normal winning trades. There's not too much to go over with them apart from the analysis to take in them. So this is the first trade I took. It was on Tuesday. It was on GU. I closed it right here at 1.3R. So I'll walk you through why I took this trade. If we come over to DXY and come up to the daily, you can see price has been very bearish. We've been displacing lower, we've shown by these fair value gaps. This low here was my initial target to see what price was going to do when we get there. How are we going to react to this level here? If you can see, we've got this inversion fair value gap right here, which we tapped up into on the previous day and were consolidating and moved a bit lower. You can also see a bit more clearly on the 1 hour here, we had this new day opening gap which price filled and we was displacing lower. All this was more than enough for me around here to look for bearish dollar, so a bullish GBP USD. So going over to GU, because I want this to also align with my DXY bias. If we go up onto the daily chart, you can see on Monday, price just tapped into this bullish fair value gap and we closed above. This is very nice. It shows bullish price action. If we drop to the 4 hour, you can see we swept this low and price was moving to the upside. On the 1 hour, you can see we was moving higher. We disrespected this 1 hour fair value gap, which is a nice sign of bullish price action. And then I would have took this trade. We would have had a 1 minute market structure shift, which we did right here. So I entered just here, stops below this 5 minute low right here, and then I rode it up. I closed here because DXY hit, if we go back to the DXY chart, it took this low, as you can see, 345. I closed here at 345, just up here at the top. As you can see, if I did let it play out, we did eventually sweep these equal highs, which was my initial target. However, DXY no longer aligned with my bias, so the trade was then invalid. I have to close it there. This is the second winning trade I took this week on Thursday the 13th, and it was a long on gold. I reviewed this trade on my TikTok, so you can go over there to see it, but I'm going to be going over it in more detail right here. So starting on the daily chart, we can clearly see we had this bearish fair value gap which we inverted, came down into, filled it, bodies are very clearly respecting, and we were moving higher. Love the inversion fair value gap to find direction. If we come down to the 4 hour, we can see we was displacing away. If I just delete this other trade, you can see we left these bullish fair value gaps which we respected here and here while sweeping this low. This shows there is displacement, there is clear volume in the market. Also disrespecting this bearish fair value gap. You can see here we got this bullish fair value gap displacing through these highs. Another sign price is likely to come up to this high, which is my target and is all-time highs. I've just dropped down to the 1 hour. As you can see, similar to the other winning trade I showed you, we had this opening gap which price filled and closed above. This is a great sign that price is going to go higher, as price loves to fill these, and if we're not trading through it, we're likely to move away from it. So I would have dropped down to the 1 minute. We had this market structure shift pretty much as soon as we filled this new day opening gap. Literally no drawdown once I got in. Price went straight up to TP. This is a beautiful trade. I was in this trade for maybe half an hour, 40 minutes if that. Went straight up to TP, very little drawdown. Beautiful trade. Just so you can see what did happen, you can clearly see on gold, price displaced massively through the previous all-time highs, which was my end target. If you was taking the same trade and was maybe a bit more of a risk taker than me, you could have easily took almost 6R from this one trade. Okay, now it's time to show you the first losing trade I took this week. So for those of you who aren't aware, twice a year the clocks go forwards or backwards. The clocks changed last weekend or the weekend before from when I'm recording this. However, New York or America changed their clocks a few weeks before Europe and the rest of the world. I have a rule in my trading which says up until 3 a.m. New York time, I need to wait for 2 market structure shifts. But if it's after, I can enter off 1. That's because I like to trade the London session. 2 a.m. is Frankfurt open. There's quite a lot of manipulation, so I want to be really sure if I am taking an early trade. As you can see in the bottom here, I've now got it set to Chicago, as that's aligned with what I'm used to seeing. But if I had it on New York, you could see here was 3 a.m, which was where I entered. And as you can see, if I drop down to the 1 minute, 3 a.m. is where I entered. So using New York time, this is a valid entry. And I have noticed there's been more volume at this time than there was, and the hour before. However, I trade based off European volume, and as the clocks haven't changed in Europe, the people aren't in their offices, the markets at this time aren't moving how I would like them to be, so I still need to wait. So I got in too early here, price took me out. However, if I waited, I wouldn't have entered here as we didn't have a second shift. I would have gotten up here, which is 4:40 a.m, the time I like trading, or 9:40 for me in the UK. I would have got in here just off this shift right there, and I would have had a lovely 2-hour trade before news came and would have wicked me out. However, I closed before news anyway, but TP was hit either way. I've now come up to the daily just so I can quickly show you the analysis leading to this trade. So as you can see on the daily, we've been displacing up higher. There's a lot of room to go down for a pullback, being either this fair value gap, this fair value gap, these previous highs up here. And what happened is we swept this low and closed below. When I came to the markets in the morning and saw this, I thought, okay, if the 1 or 4 hour align with this, we're in a great position to start pulling back. If you come to the 4 hour, you can see we had a really nice rejection candle here. Then dropping down to the 1 hour, you can see we had this 1 hour fair value gap, which we had displacing away, shows displacement. Price came into it, didn't even tap half, moved away again. We also had this small fair value gap right here on the hour, if you can see there, which we filled. But again, price went lower. Off that, we then had the shift, which I got in from. But obviously, it was too early. Price manipulated before eventually going my way. And quickly going over to DXY, you can see the low I had marked out from Monday or Tuesday when I showed you the first trade. We respected it, so I thought, okay, we're in a nice place to pull back, potentially up into this inversion fair value gap, this daily fair value gap, or this weekly inversion fair value gap up here we may come into, if you can see that. If we drop down to the 4 hour, you can see we had displacement coming away, which is a very nice sign for me. So I was obviously looking bullish on dollar, so bearish on anything against the dollar. I'm just going to quickly show you a bit more analysis for this trade here. So if you see on the 1 hour, the fair value gap I spoke about before showing displacement, we came back in, fully filled it, closed below, and swept this high here before having this market structure shift, which then ended up taking price lower, as I showed you before. So here's the second losing trade I took. This one, to be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed with myself, and I would say with the first trade, I was figuring out the impact of the time difference. I thought maybe I can align it with New York and it would be fine. However, when I looked and analysed the last trade I took, the last loser that being, and the other time, what it was doing throughout the week at that time, I thought, okay, I'm going to just treat it according to London time. What happened here though, was as you can see at the bottom, I don't check the top right of my screen for the time whilst I'm trading. I always look at the bottom right down here. And as you can see, this was New York time. So here it said 3:40 when it was actually 2:40 or 7:40 for me. So this was way too early to be entering off the first market structure or break of structure. However, I looked at that, didn't think twice, and got straight in, which I shouldn't have took, so this trade wasn't valid. So to combat this, what I've done for this week, and I've had a great week so far, but as you can see here, I changed it from New York to Chicago, so now the times are lined up, so that hasn't been happening since, as I very quickly identified this to be an issue. So I've come onto DXY to show you the analysis I took leading to the trade and how sometimes we are wrong and my analysis was just off today. This trade I shouldn't have really took, as I clearly didn't listen too much to my own advice. So we respected this inversion fair value gap the day before. However, I didn't take too much notice of this and thought we're probably going to come up into this daily fair value gap or the weekly inversion fair value gap I showed you first, as we had this rejection. That was poor analysis on my behalf. So my analysis for the day, unlike the other loser, where it was right, this one was just wrong. We had a really nice grab here, price moved lower. I like this fair value gap for us to move higher. However, price slowed down when we got into the inversion fair value gap, as you can see here, and then we moved down. Jumping on over to EU, you can see I liked how we were still moving lower, with my target being this fair value gap down here, again similar to what my DXY target was. I thought we'll come down here first. This is quite a blatant point of sabotage or point for price to move up higher from, so I'll see what happens when we get down here. One thing I speak about a lot on my trade analysis is seeing displacement with fair value gaps. It's a very obvious place to see if there is institutional sponsorship or volume going your way in the market. As you can see on the 4 hour, there's no fair value gaps out of here, which is quite a blatant sign. There's a big chance we're going to move up to take this. However, on the 1 hour, we did have this really small fair value gap here and this one, which we did close through, but then respected lower. So I thought, okay, that's quite nice. I'm happy to take this lower. Obviously, my analysis was wrong, and sometimes we're wrong, but the key takeaway here, which would have avoided this loss and turned the other loss into a win, is stick to the trading times of your session. And there's going to be time differences, and there's going to be the clocks changing at different times. Every time it happens, it's normally a week. This time it's, I believe, 3 weeks, which is a lot longer than normal. However, if you're trading New York, obviously stick to or any American session, stick to the times of your country. However, if you're trading London, like I do, or any Asian session, stick to the local time of them countries, as that is when the true volume is actually going to be in the market. So I hope you found this insightful. I hope you appreciate my honesty of I'm not perfect, I take losing trades, I took a trade that didn't follow my rules. Yeah, if you found some insight, leave a like, leave a comment if you have any questions. I'm going to have more educational videos coming out, as well as more reviews like this.